I call this meeting to order. Thank you. Please stand and for the prayer and the pledge. Dear God, we pray to you in the many names people of the world call you. We come before you tonight hopeful. We keep thinking that the trials of COVID and all it touched will end soon, and yet we still see signs that while we may be getting closer, we are not at its end for everyone. We come to you grateful for those who worked and are still working to get us through this health and financial crisis. We come to you knowing that not all the problems of the world are global, that small cities like ours have concerns that to our citizens loom large. So help us, dear God, give us the grace to listen with our hearts and to act with our souls and mind, that we might offer hope to all who have placed their trust in us. And may all who are listening tonight consider putting into practice the words of Mother Teresa. Be the living expression of God's kindness. Kindness in your face, kindness in your eyes, kindness in your smiles. And all God's people said, Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I suppose I should have added, and thank you, Lord, for the rain, because it's been so dry here for so long. So we welcome everybody tonight and ask you to please silence or turn off your electronic devices. And with that, I will make sure mine is tucked away. So we do have one presentation tonight, and invite Chuck Weber from the Water Director of City of Tampa, who's going to give us a presentation on the Pure project. So welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present on Pure. I'll just jump right into it. We have like three challenges that we're trying to address with the Pure project. The first is maintaining minimum flows on the lower Hillsborough River. We're required to maintain a certain flow during the drought time of the year, and actually year-round we're required to provide a minimum flow. And the primary source for those minimum flows at this point in time is Sulphur Springs. Ever since we've started pumping Sulphur Springs to provide minimum flows, it's becoming more and more saline. And it's reaching a point where it's not a reliable source in the future. So we have to find another source of water to provide minimum flows on the lower Hillsborough River. The second challenge we're facing is making sure that we have a secure drinking water supply. We have a water use permit for 82 million gallons a day, and during periods of drought, we can't actually use that full permit because the reservoir won't support it. So currently, we will buy water from Tampa Bay Water when we need to during the drought, but we believe it's a more sustainable approach to use the full 82 MGD permit that we have and make use of the reservoir where we can. The third challenge we're facing is the discharge elimination legislation that made its way through Tallahassee this year. We have approximately, what's a little over 50 million gallons a day of highly treated reclaimed water that we're discharging to Hillsborough Bay right now. This legislation would require us to find another way, another use for that water. So those are our three challenges. What we're looking at our project right now has 6 components. This map kind of has them all jumbled on the same page. It's pretty busy and hard to read. But I'm going to walk you through each component real quick. The first one is enhanced monitoring for contaminants. And where we're doing this monitoring is actually in the wastewater collection system. As part of any reuse project, this would be a requirement, that you would monitor your wastewater collection system to make sure that you're not seeing things that are unusual, that there's discharges that are unexpected as far as contaminants. You can monitor where things are coming from in your collection system. And a good example of how this works really well is we did some of this monitoring as part of a pilot to see what was coming from our collection system and where it was coming from. And we identified one source that was responsible for over 50% of the sodium and 50% of the chlorides that we were seeing in our whole system, just one discharger. So that presents an opportunity to find a different way to dispose of that, or maybe even treat that water on site so that the whole treatment plant doesn't have to treat for that level of contaminants in the water. So that's how source water enhanced monitoring works for you in a reuse project. You can find ways to make sure that the water is clean to begin with and you don't have to remove it from the wastewater. The next component in the process is adding additional purification to the end of our advanced wastewater treatment plant. Right now, we're using free chlorine as a disinfectant before the water goes out into the bay, and then we have to remove the chlorine. But we need to find a different disinfectant if we're going to use that reclaimed water for drinking, because the free chlorine causes disinfection byproducts that can cause cancer. So we have to remove those. And the way to do that is to find a different disinfectant. One of the disinfectants we're studying is ultraviolet light, and that removes or disinfects the water without causing those disinfection byproducts. So we will need to add some kind of additional purification processes, treatment to our process. And we're at about 30% on our design. And as we move towards 100%, we're going to identify exactly what treatment processes we need to add. The third component is eliminating that discharge, redirecting that purified water to a reusable source. So we will still have a permit to discharge in case of emergencies and for wet weather and things of that nature. But the idea is that we will send the water for beneficial reuse. And right now we're looking at doing recharge and recovery, which are the next two components of the project. The recharge wells, in the upper right, you can see kind of a graphic there, or a picture that kind of shows a footprint of a pilot well. And that's the size of the wells we're talking about. These wells are very, relatively small footprint. And we'll be looking to put them on parks and other municipal properties, fire stations, where they fit. This graphic kind of shows how the recharge well works. We'll be pumping the water down to about 800 to 600 feet below the surface. And that water will displace existing groundwater, and it will also create a saltwater intrusion barrier to keep salt water from moving inland. The next component is withdrawing the water with recovery wells. And again, another footprint, the same kind of small footprint for these wells in the same types of locations. The wells themselves will actually be in the same spot. You'll have one recharge well and roughly three recovery wells per recharge well. And the way it works is, if you look at this graphic, we'll be pulling the water out of the aquifer at 300 feet. So we'll be putting it in at 600 to 800 and pulling it out at 300. So the water will actually flow vertically upwards through the aquifer. And then the last component is sending that water to the reservoir with an outfall. And that's how we are going to provide the minimum flows and replace that source for Sulphur Springs. With this water going into the reservoir, we won't need to pump water from Sulphur Springs to the base of the dam. This water should be able to supply all the minimum flows we will need. A few years back, we installed a gate inside the center of the dam so that we can move water through the dam without overtopping it. So even when the reservoir is at a lower level below the overflow of the dam, we can still move those minimum flows through the dam. And then, just a last a statement about, keeping that reservoir full with this flow. We'll be able to drought-proof that water supply, the 82 million gallons a day that we're permitted for. With that, I'll take any questions.
We don't normally have question and answer period during presentations. However, I know that Councilwoman Abel brought this to us. So did you have a question, or I know you're going to have you had an opportunity for this to be presented to the Riverwatch Task Force?
The intention of this was at the request of the Riverwatch Task Force because they wanted to hear more information about this project. So first of all, I thank you for coming out and giving us this additional information. I did just want to ask, what is the timeline for this project being accomplished, and what progress have we made so far in terms of getting everything approved and all this stuff agreed upon by stakeholders?
Sure. Well, this spring we worked through an alternatives analysis just to make sure that we're on the right path. Those results came out last week. I think we sent out a final report, and those results, pretty much confirmed that we're on the right path. They did give us some recommendations to investigate an alternative of selling water and to look at what it might take if we had to do deep well injection to dispose of that water as an alternative. So we are going to, dot the I and cross the T and look at what the feasibility of those options might be. But at the same time, we're still pursuing the recharge and recovery combination. We also had the National Water Research Institute form a panel of experts, an independent panel of experts, to review all the technical information that we've been gathering for a reuse project for the last 3 to 4 years. And there's literally thousands of pages of technical documents that they poured through to look at things like the source water monitoring, what contaminants we might need to look out for, how it might affect the aquifer, and things of that nature. And so we are expecting their report. It was actually today, but I didn't see it, so I'm hopeful for tomorrow. And on June 24th, we're going to present the draft report or draft results from that report. We're also going to talk about some public outreach. We've started doing some public outreach. We had, I think, 3 or 4 different focus groups that we did within the city of Tampa. And then they did a survey. I think we had a little over 400 respondents, so not a whole lot of input. But the one takeaway from all of that outreach is people are interested in this topic. They want to talk about it, and they want to learn a lot more about it. So I think moving forward through the summer, we're going to try to ramp up our public outreach. As far as timeline, we intend to move forward with finalizing our 30% design. Most of the project is designed at 30% right now. There's still a few components, namely the outfall, that needs to be designed. And that process will go through next year. I think it's June 21st, SwiftMud will be voting on whether or not to provide cooperative funding. It's the 22nd. They'll be determining whether or not to provide us the cooperative funding. We're hopeful, it looks good so far, that we'll get the cooperative funding. If we get that cooperative funding, we'll have another third-party review after 30% design. So the process is moving forward. We expect to finish that 30% design next year, and then move on to design and construction, and permitting. And that entire process will take anywhere from 5, maybe 8 years to make it through all those steps.
Okay, thank you very much for the information.
Well, apparently the old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, still applies.
That's
right?
true.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm sure there are different people here we are very conscious of the river here in our city. It's
I imagine so.
yes. So thank you very much. James, you okay?
No questions. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. Don't be a stranger. Come back anytime. So we do have a board appointment tonight. There's one vacancy on the Board of Adjustments due to a term expiration of Patty Vergara. I see Patty is sitting here in the audience. The appointment term is from June 15th tonight until June 15th of 2024. And we have one applicant who is Ms. Vergara, who is willing to do the job again. So I see you're here. Do you have anything you'd like to say? Any comment? No, thank you? Well, thanks for being here. And ask for a motion to approve the appointment of Patty Vergara as the member of the Board of Adjustments for a term extending from June 15th, 2021 until June 15th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Have a motion from Mr. Chambers.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Abel. So we'll have a call to vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. You have the job. Thank you so much. So the next order of business is the consideration of the minutes from the previous meeting of June 1st. If the minutes are acceptable, I will also entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from June 1st.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Ms. Abels, by Mr. Chambers. We have a call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. For those of you in the audience, you're wondering why this is so quick, is because there are only 3 of us tonight. So we're doing our best to, we have a quorum, so all the business that we do conduct tonight will be legit. So at this time, are there any persons wishing to be heard on items that are not on the agenda? I don't have anything. Is there anyone in the audience? If you're not on the agenda, anyone who would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on. There are no communications or petitions and no consent agenda. We do have a public hearing, however. We have a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with C&T Contracting for the construction of a concrete apron at Fire Station 1. And I see Fire Chief Ian Kemp is here, and he will explain.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, City Council. Ian Kemp, your Fire Chief. The City of Temple Terrace Fire Department advertised an invitation to bid for removal and replacement of concrete apron at Fire Station Number 1. A total of 4 contractors submitted bid proposals for, but not limited to, demolition, removal of existing rear aprons, soil testing, treatment, termite treatment, and installation of concrete with curing agent. The 4 contractors who met the city's requirements to conduct such work are listed below in no particular order: C&T Contracting, Gillum Construction, Mims Construction, and Royal Construction. Funding for this work will be derived from the fiscal year 2021 Community Investment Tax account 160-1511-522-6315 in the amount of $75,000, and the general fund from account number 001-1511-522-6315 in the amount of $7,069. Staff is recommending the City Council approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with C&T Contracting to remove the existing concrete apron and replace it with a new apron, concrete apron, as per the proposed bid.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot to say about that. Are there any public comments? Seeing none. Council, any comments or questions?
No.
No? I do have one question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we're going to make a motion here. So in the years past, we had the pavers that the water could, seep through. We're not doing that anymore. That's not feasible.
A few years ago, we replaced the front tarmac with concrete. We had pavers, and the pavers would just sink. We were getting holes. It's not for the amount of weight that our trucks produce, it's not advantageous for us to put pavers down.
I only asked that question because it was asked of me. Why did they do that? I said, I know there's a good reason.
Yeah, I think if you go around throughout the country, you would find very few
was
fire stations with pavers. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. With that, if it's acceptable, I will entertain a motion authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with C&T Contracting for the construction of a concrete apron at Fire Station Number 1. Have a motion?
So moved. I was going to read the whole thing again, but you just read it once.
I'll let you do it next time. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And the next on the agenda, we have Public Works Director of Utilities, Troy Tench, who will explain the resolution awarding C&C Motor and Utilities Services a contract in the amount of $307,857. I think that's still right.
Yes.
For the rehabilitation of the Bridgeford Oaks Lift Station. Mr. Tench?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Good evening. Troy Tench, Public Works Utilities Director. Before I begin with my presentation, I wanted to discuss the substitute resolution that I provided to everyone before the meeting started. We found a minor error with the original resolution. It had to do with the account string that we were pulling the additional funds needed to cover this project. I did highlight that at the top of the resolution, so if you have any specific questions about that, I can address that now, but more or less, the original account string was incorrect. We did correct that. That is the current and correct account string for the activity proposed.
Thank you.
So with that, I am here this evening to seek approval to award CEC Motor and Utility Services with the rehabilitation of the Bridgeford Oaks lift station. I believe you may recall this lift station. I brought it up earlier this year for design. The lift station is located out off of Bridge Road, just a little bit north of the intersection of Harney, where Harney and Temple Terrace Highway connect. If you go just a little north there, it's located on the west side of the road. But we brought this forward earlier this year for design. The design team was able to expedite this, so we moved it along quickly, put together the bid package, advertised the invitation to bid in April of this year. We did receive 8 contractors. They did bid on this project. TEC was the lowest bidder on that contract at just over $307,000. Again, this project will propose to rehabilitate the entire lift station, which will include new rail system, new pumps, new piping, new valves, in addition to recoating the existing well. And then finally, we will put in a new control box, electrical control panel. So in general, we'll just get a refresh and get it back on track for another 18, 20 years of service. So that said, staff recommends the City Council authorize the award of a contract to CEC Motor and Utility Services LLC for the rehabilitation of the Bridgeford Oaks lift station in the amount of $307,857 to be provided from account number 430-3899-535.63-33. Included is a transfer of $82,857 from the contingency fund under account number 430-1290-533.99-11. I will stand for questions if any.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none. Council, do you have any questions?
No questions?
No? Okay. Would you like to make a full motion, Mr. Chambers?
Yes, I would. Okay. I'd like to move that we approve the resolution awarding CEC Motor and Utility Services a contract in the amount of $307,857 for the rehabilitation of the Bridgeford Oaks lift station.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe you're going to stay before us because
Right
you
where
get
I
to
stand.
tell us about resolution authorizing CPH Inc. to provide design services in the amount of $204,532 for the relocation and replacement of water mains surrounding the areas along Bannockburn Avenue, Glenarvan Avenue, and Downs Avenue.
Boy, I'm not sure I even need to do any presentation. You've done it just about for me. Again, good evening, Your Honorable Vice Mayor, City Council, Troy Tench, Public Works Utilities Director. I'm here this evening to seek approval to award the design of the Bannockburn, North Glenarvan, Downs Avenues water main replacement project to CPH Inc. CPH is one of the 4 engineering firms that is on our general engineering services contract. So we have that contract in place to allow us to just smoothly transition right into a design project. We don't have to advertise it for bid. The project is located, bounded to the north by Bannockburn Avenue, to the south by Downs Avenue and North Glenarvan. In general, it's surrounded by holes 10 through 18. It kind of creates a little bit of an island there in the middle of the golf course. So if that gives you some idea of where the area is located. This project is very similar to our St. Augustine water main replacement project. And if you'll recall, that is the removal of those rear yard easements, rear yard location of our water mains. to the front of the yard. In addition, a majority of these water mains are 4-inch, so we'll be upsizing those to 6-inch. That will help increase some of the availability of water, some of the capacity. Again, doesn't change pressure, just changes available capacity. It would then also lend assistance to our fire department in the event that there was a fire. So you've got the larger water mains to allow that available flow. So it's a life safety issue as well, as in addition to, again, providing ease of maintenance for staff as we move forward. So in general, again, we're looking at about 11,000 linear feet of replacement of water lines in that general area, and looking forward to getting that project up and moving. That said, staff recommends the City Council approve the expenditure of $204,500.32 to be provided from account number 410-1922-533.63-32 for the design of the relocation and replacement of water mains along Bannockburn Avenue, North Glenarvan Avenue, and Downs Avenue to CPH Incorporated. I will stand for questions, if any.
Do we have any public comments, questions? Hearing none. Council, do you have any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
What is the age of the existing backyard water mains that we're replacing?
I would say they probably range from the 30, maybe 40-year range.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Question?
Yeah, I do, and you may not know the answer at the top of your head. So you've got to go after the design, then we have to go through the bid process.
Correct.
So when do you think construction could start?
We have construction budgeted for next fiscal year. So we anticipate going through the design elements over the next probably 6 months. So take us through pretty much through the end of the year. Then we'll go through the bid process, takes 2 to 3 months, and we'll be letting the project probably fall of next year, or spring of next year, I'm sorry. So a little bit before this time next year, I'll be bringing that construction project forward, and then it will be phased. There's 2 phases for that project. So there's a phase in fiscal year 22 and a phase in fiscal year 23.
Okay, and one more.
Yes.
And the new construction, will it be in the yards or in the street?
It will be out near the street. For the most part, it will be just off the roadway and in that section kind of between the roadway and sidewalk often. If we have issues with trees, which that area there are a number of large trees, we do move it out into the roadway to make sure we don't have that interference. We obviously don't want to take down large grand oaks and whatnot if we don't have to.
Thank you. Great project.
Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. I'm sure the neighbors were happy that you asked that question.
Absolutely. We always try and work with the neighbors.
Absolutely.
And we will be restoring everything best to its previous condition post-construction.
Thank you.
With brand-new equipment.
Yes.
So if it's acceptable, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve a resolution authorizing CPH Inc. to provide design services in the amount of $204,532 for the relocation and replacement of the water mains surrounding the areas along Bannockburn, Glenarvan, and Downs.
So do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and go Bolts.
Yes, that's right. I'm glad you got that in there. So we're at the point of council business. Mr. Chambers, do you have any council business?
I have new business and board report.
Okay, anyone council business? No?
Okay,
All right.
okay. Well, I guess one was not old business, but I want to remind everybody that the city celebrates the 4th of July on the 3rd. So just to keep that word out there, we want a lot of attendance at the parade at 10 o'clock and a lot of activity on the first fairway at 6, and then the fireworks at 9:15. So please pass the word, come out. Guaranteed to be cool and no rain. So.
I'm glad, please make sure the minutes reflect that those were comments
You
from
didn't tell me that?
Mr. Chambers.
Okay, and then a board report. I am the liaison to the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, and that's an organization of 6 counties, 32 municipalities. It's a big group of the Bay Area. And the topic of our meeting this month was hurricane preparedness. And I know hurricane season started June 1st, just want to remind everybody to please prepare yourselves. There's nothing on the horizon, even though forecast shows the higher than average storms. That doesn't mean they will come to here, but it's higher than average storms like in the last year. So prepare yourself. Our fire department and police department, they do a great job, but we have to be ready ourselves with generator fuel if you've got it and supplies. So just a reminder. That was a big topic at our thing, and there's a very good website at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council that's got all the information about hurricanes. So, and do we have our guides out, Chief?
We have not received those from the county yet.
Gotcha, okay. All right,
Okay,
that was it. That's my report.
all right, thank you.
I have a board
Sable?
report. I am the representative for the Affordable Housing Board, and there are ERAP funds available, and this helps with past due rent, and people can apply over and over again. There's criteria for application, but it's suggested that you don't, I guess, I want to say self-diagnose. They want you to fill out the application, and then they'll decide if they could help you. And I want to provide the website. It's hcfl.gov.net/R3 home help. And this allows emergency rental assistance and allows people to apply for long periods of overdue rent. And as the eviction moratoriums are expiring, we want to make sure people are aware of that so that they can stay in their homes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. I too have a report. I attended the League of Cities Policy Committee last week, and the topics I will be sharing with all of council because I need your input. The topics that have been so noted as a real concern for our cities coming forward in the 2022 legislative session will be on cybersecurity for cities, short-term rentals, a good old favorite one, our Attorney General designation of matters of great governmental concern, smoke-free zones in public parks, issues affecting municipal elections, and how to handle virtual meetings. So the next meeting that I will be attending is July 16th, so I will send you the materials that we were given. If you could just take a look at it and tell me how you want me to go. What we are doing in this session is we are going to decide on our hot priority, what that may be. I can tell you the discussion, all of these are interesting, but as soon as we got on the topic of short-term rentals, the entire room lit up. So I have a feeling that might be our priority, but cybersecurity obviously is definitely something we need to think about. So that next meeting is July 16th. And so that is my report, but I want to, I'm going to call on the city manager, but I know that our city attorney, Ms. Shoshone, is also on a policy committee for Florida League of Cities, so she has some to share with us as well. But I'll turn it over at this point to our city manager for his report.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Just a couple items of note here, not really in any order. Just to remind council that we have a June 29th and a July 1st budget workshop scheduled to make sure that you guys are available for that. It appears as if everybody, all the balance of council will be in town, so we're making good strides with getting you a preliminary budget to present to you on the 29th and the 1st. We also would like to remind council as well as the viewing public, we've scheduled a town hall meeting for July 1st. That is at 6 p.m. at Lightfoot Center. We really have no written agenda, if you would, but certainly I'm sure that we'll all have a lot to say and kind of welcome the residents out in order to kind of just hear what everybody has to say. I mean, we've been so secluded here for the last year and a half. We haven't had a town hall meeting, so this is the first. We're trying to reinstitute that meeting. On July 6th, I have the need to be out of town. On the 6th, we have a council meeting on July 6th. I am going to ask Police Chief Ken Albano to sit as acting city manager for that meeting in my absence. Unless council's got a real issue with that, if you do, please let me know. But those are the plans. July 4th celebration on July 3rd. Again, thanks for bringing that up, Mr. Chambers. And Madam Mayor, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Ms. Shoshone, our city attorney's report.
Thank you. Yes, I also attended the Florida League of Cities Committee meetings, and I am on the Land Use and Economic Development Committee. It seemed that we discussed land use related legislation coming out of Tallahassee much more than we discussed economic development at this particular meeting. In addition to short-term rentals, although we did talk about that too, they seem to be more focused on the home-based business statute. So I'll wait till another meeting when everyone is here for council to maybe suggest some strategic ways to deal with what the impacts of that might be in our neighborhood. It may require us doing some additional ordinances to kind of try to get ahead of that, although with what's going on in Tallahassee so quickly, it's very hard to get ahead. So we seem to kind of be following as quickly as we can and trying to do what needs to be done. Also, they discussed an older, not much older, but an older statute with regard to CRAs and the sunsetting of CRAs. I'm kind of doing some research on that now in my office to make sure that we do what we need to do to keep our CRA going and present as long as we want it to. So that's all on the committee meeting right now. The other thing I wanted to mention is I know the vice mayor recalls, and I believe Councilman Chambers might have been on council at this time. I know that this might be newer information for Councilwoman Abel, but the Lee Family Partnership case versus City of Temple Terrace had to do with our rental housing program, and Lee Family Partnership was the plaintiff in a class action suit that questioned the constitutionality of the rental housing program. So as part of the settlement of that, we had made changes to our ordinance to make sure that it was constitutional and moving forward. Part of that settlement, though, involved the refunding of monies that had been collected from owners of rental properties that funded the program. So refunds had to be made. None of it came out of the city's pocket. It actually came out of our insurance carrier's pocket. But the issue remained is if you couldn't refund all of it and some remained in the pot, what do you do with the remaining unclaimed money? So as it turns out, I just received notification today from our legal counsel on that, is that the amount of money that could not be refunded was $8,150. And as part of the settlement, the city was able to designate we were required to designate a 501c3 nonprofit corporation to receive the remaining money. So a check has been sent for $8,150 to the organization that had been selected by the city. And let's see. That went to the Stephen A. Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And I wanted to be able to tell everyone what that was, because not everybody has necessarily heard of them. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is committed to ensuring that we never forget 9/11, the sacrifices made, and those that continue to be made by our first responders in the line of duty. So through the Fallen First Responder Home Program, which the Tunnel to Towers operates among, now they've got other programs, but this was their main one. They aim to pay off the mortgages of fallen law enforcement officers and firefighters who lose their lives in the line of duty or to 9/11 related illness and leave behind young children. The foundation's goal is to ensure stability and security for these families facing sudden tragic loss. And I looked up when I was getting ready to make this presentation tonight, well, report, not presentation. I had looked up Stephen A. Siller, and I wanted to tell you about him, but it brought tears to my eyes, and I would not probably be able to read that to you. So on your own, if you look up Stephen A. Siller, Siller, it'll bring tears to your eyes too. But he was a firefighter in New York at the time. So
Thank you very much.
that's all I have.
Thank you. Is it possible for us to put that story on our website?
I don't know why not.
Yeah, I mean,
Give the information to
Okay.
Lori.
thank you, thank you. All right, well, we have come to the end of our meeting, and anybody have anything they want to talk about? I mean, gee whiz, we're not used to this. Nothing exciting, nothing worrisome, this is wonderful.
Bolt.
All right, that's right, gold bolts, exactly. And with this, I will call this meeting to order. Thank you. To close.